Gauff is calling it a night. That's unfortunate. Just the second time Coco Gauff has retired.
There is a moment in every great match, or almost great match, where you realize the story has changed. Sunday night at Indian Wells, that moment came quietly. No dramatic point. No roar from the crowd. Just a two-time Grand Slam champion walking slowly toward the net, her left arm wrapped in tape, leaning on the cord and waiting. And Eala, standing on the other side, who had been winning this match convincingly, suddenly looked like she didn't want to be right. This was supposed to be a defining moment for both of them. The calendar had set it up perfectly. March 8th, International Women's Day. Stadium 1 at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden, the 5th Grand Slam as it's sometimes called, the most attended tennis event in the world outside of the four majors. The crowd was enormous. The Filipino flags were everywhere. And for about 54 minutes, the match that played out between Eala and Coco Gauff was exactly the kind of tennis encounter that reminds you why this sport can be so unexpectedly compelling. But before we get to how the night ended, let's back up and talk about how we got here, because the context is everything. 3 weeks before this match, in Dubai, Gauff handled Eala 6-0, 6-2. It wasn't even competitive. Gauff dismantled her systematically, the kind of result that makes you wonder whether the gap between a 20-year-old prospect and an established two-time Grand Slam champion is actually as bridgeable as the ranking numbers suggest. After that match, Eala was candid about it. She said the gap between them was pretty prominent. But she also said something that is worth remembering now. She said she wasn't disappointed. She said she felt she was on the right path. She kept her head up. And then she went back to work. Before Indian Wells even started, she was asked about a potential rematch with Gauff, and her answer was completely genuine. I would love to play her again. I think she's an incredible athlete and an incredible person, and she's a role model for a reason. That's the kind of thing players say in press conferences all the time, but it landed differently coming from Eala, because you could tell she meant both parts of it, the competitive desire and the genuine respect, with equal sincerity. This wasn't trash talk dressed up as sportsmanship. This was a young player who had just been beaten badly, who understood what she was looking at when she looked across the net at Gauff, and who still wanted back in the room. She had to earn her way to that room, too. Her second-round match against Ukrainian veteran Diana Yastremska was not easy. The two played 2 hours and 43 minutes, the longest match of the day, and Eala nearly lost it. Yastremska broke for 5-4 in the third set and served for the match. She had 15 double faults across the match, which was a gift, but you still have to execute in those moments. Eala broke back, steadied herself, and closed it out. She told the press afterward, "I feel great now. I just told myself to keep fighting, and I was still in the match. Like I said on court, I really had to dig deep for that one. That match mattered more than the scoreline suggests. It proved she could dig out a late three-setter under pressure at a venue she'd never played before. It set her up physically and mentally for what came next. And then Sunday arrived. The order of play for Stadium 1 that night was a strong one. Sabalenka versus Christian, then Ben Shelton versus Lerner Tien, then Jannik Sinner versus Denis Shapovalov, and then Gauff and Eala to close out the night. By the time the two women walked on court, it was late, the California air had cooled, and the crowd that had been there all night was now fully awake and loud. The Filipino contingent in the stands was one of the more remarkable things to observe. Hundreds of fans had packed her practice court earlier in the week just to watch her train, while Alexander Zverev and Taylor Fritz practiced right next to her and drew almost nobody. The BNP Paribas Open Zone tournament director, Philippe Dor, told Front Office Sports flat out, "We love every minute of it. We benefit from it. We promote it." A day-in-the-life video they posted with Eala earlier in the week had already become the tournament's most watched YouTube video of the year by a wide margin. That's the footprint she brings into every venue she plays now. It's genuinely unprecedented for a player ranked outside the top 30. Now, the match. From the first game, Eala was different from the player who had walked onto the court in Dubai 3 weeks earlier. She was reading Gauff's serve before it landed. She was attacking the forehand side, which is historically the weaker of Gauff's 2 ground strokes, and she was mixing in drop shots that pulled Gauff forward and out of her rhythm. Gauff broke early to go up 2-1, and it looked for a moment like Dubai was about to replay itself. It didn't. Eala broke back, then won 5 consecutive games. There was a key moment in the 6th game of the first set where she came back from 0-40 down, 3 break points against her, and broke Gauff anyway. That moment told you something. That's not a lucky shot. That's a game plan holding under pressure. Gauff's serve, which had been a problem all season, she leads the entire WTA Tour in double faults in 2026 by a wide margin, came completely undone on Sunday night. She double faulted 7 times in the first set alone. Those aren't just statistical footnotes. They're a player fighting herself while also trying to fight her opponent. But here's what became clear as the set went on. Gauff was also fighting something physical. Trailing 5-2 in the first set, she called the trainer onto the court. Her left shoulder and forearm were massaged. She got back on the court and held, cutting the deficit to 5-3, but by the end of the set, her left arm was being heavily taped between sets. The medical team worked on it. She came back out for the second set, which tells you something about her as a competitor. She wasn't going to walk off the court in the first set. But 2 games into that second set, down 0-2, she reached the net, leaned on it, and waited for Eala to understand. They embraced. Gauff spoke first. "I'm sorry. You were playing great." Eala was in tears. Her reaction in that moment was not the reaction of a player celebrating a ranking milestone. It was the reaction of a competitor who wanted to earn what she got and who genuinely cares about the person on the other side of the net. That image, Eala crying, Gauff comforting her after a retirement, is one of the more unusual scenes you'll see at a tournament of this magnitude, and it said everything you need to know about both of them. On the microphone afterward, Eala opened by acknowledging the date. "First and foremost, I want to say Happy Women's Day, everybody. Bear with me because I have a lot to say. I want to say thank you to all the incredible women who have paved the way and who have advocated for themselves and for other women." And then she addressed the result directly, with the same honesty she's shown all season. "I really didn't want to win this way, but this is still a really big moment for me to be able to play on Stadium 1 of Indian Wells and against such a great competitor. I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm so happy. You can spend a lot of time debating what the result means given the circumstances. That is a fair conversation to have." Gauff played 54 minutes of tennis while battling what she described as feeling like a firework going off inside her arm. That matters. But the debate about whether Eala was winning this match before the injury became serious is not a close one. She had 9 winners to Gauff's 6. She had 12 unforced errors to Gauff's 26. She was dictating play. Gauff later confirmed she had first felt the issue as early as the second game of the opening set. Eala won the next 5 games. Gauff spoke after the match, and her description of what she felt in that arm is going to concern a lot of people. "I felt it like the second game of the first set. I guess a simple way to put it, it felt like a firework was going off inside of my arm, and then my whole arm felt like it was on fire." She also said this was the first time in her career she has had an injury where she genuinely didn't know what was wrong. She's awaiting an MRI. The early indication is nerve-related. For Gauff, the reigning French Open champion and the face of American women's tennis, the timing is as bad as it gets. The Miami Open starts in less than 2 weeks. Her participation there is now legitimately in question. For Eala, the result, complicated as it is emotionally, moves her into the round of 16 at Indian Wells for the first time in her career. She is the first Filipino player to reach this stage in the history of this tournament. And when the live WTA rankings updated, her name moved to number 28 in the world. A new career high. The highest-ranked Filipino tennis player, man or woman, in the professional era. 1 year ago, she was ranked 140th. Let that land for a second. 140th to 28th in 12 months. She came into the 2025 Miami Open as a wild card and made the semifinals, defeating 3 Grand Slam champions, Iga Swiatek, Madison Keys, and Yelena Ostapenko in succession. That run launched her into the top 100 for the first time. She became the first player from the Philippines ever to break into that number. Then she spent the back half of 2025 and the first weeks of 2026 stacking results: Abu Dhabi, Auckland, Dubai, and now Indian Wells. Each one adding ranking points and experience at a level she simply didn't have access to a year ago. By being seeded at Indian Wells, she received a first-round bye. She is now 3-3 against top 5 opponents on tour. 3 wins against 3 Slam champions. At 20 years old. Her next match is against Czech 14th seed Linda Noskova, who beat Sorana Cîrstea in a draining 3-setter earlier on Sunday. They have never played each other. Noskova is a big server who can overwhelm opponents when she's on. It will be a different kind of test than the Gauff match. No shared history, no emotional complexity, just 2 players who want to be in the quarterfinals. At the start of this year, Eala reflected on where she was mentally heading into the season. She said, "Not just on the court, but as a person in general, I've matured a lot. I've gained a lot of experience at a much higher level than I used to compete. I'd like to say I'm a better version of myself now." That quote is doing a lot of quiet work when you trace it across everything that's happened in the last 8 weeks. She sold out Dubai. She nearly dropped a match at Indian Wells in the second round and came back to win it in 3. She went out to Stadium 1 in front of a crowd that included a whole section of Filipino flags and played the best tennis of her young career for 54 minutes against one of the best players on the planet. And when the match ended in circumstances neither of them would have chosen, she cried, not from relief, but from something more complicated. She wanted to beat her properly. She still does. There is a journalist named TJ Manitok who has covered Filipino sports for a long time, and he made an observation this week that is worth passing along. He said the Philippines has been hungry for the next Manny Pacquiao, someone who makes the country stop and watch. He said when Pacquiao was at his peak, nothing moved. Roads were empty on fight night. Everyone was watching. Alex Eala, at 20 years old, ranked 28th in the world on International Women's Day, is beginning to earn that kind of attention. Not because of hype, because of what she does on the court, week after week, against the best players in the world. The round of 16 is next. The story isn't close to finished. If you've been following this channel, you know we've been tracking this rise since before most of the tennis media caught up to it. Drop a comment below. Are you watching the Noskova match? Do you think she makes a quarterfinal here? And where do you see this ranking going before Roland Garros? Hit like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you for the next one.